Whoa. I love it when that wall lights up with people. Who have we got? Helen Lord, got Kat, Katie Aldridge, David Wise, Doug Gillanders. Now, here's the thing, guys. I was speaking to Annette and Doug this week, and they're in Darwin in Australia. And I know some people are saying I've got to get the replays because I can't make the live. Well, Annette and Doug get up at 3:00 a.m. every Thursday morning to be part of the live. So as a kind of like a results versus excuses point of view, and they say that they do that because they love being on the live. So those of you that watch the replays, then drop your excuses, because otherwise I'm going to set Annette and Doug onto you. I can see them laughing there. So here we are. We're on session 7. Can you believe that? 7 weeks of Perceptionist Projection. I didn't know I could talk for so long on Perceptionist Projection, to be honest with you, but I've obviously proven myself wrong. I can see other people joining. I can't see that many because I want to use the flip chart today. Then my laptop is further away, so I'm looking at people joining on my iPad, and all I can see on my iPad is 12 people, whereas I can see 49 on my laptop, but it's a little bit far away. And as usual, we will be putting the flip charts that I'm going to do in the Real World NLP and HUNA community group, so that you can just listen to me and look at the flip chart. I don't think you need to be seeing me all the time. It's probably better for your health and well-being, to be honest with you. So here we are. So what we're going to be talking about today. Today is about, and we did at the end of session 6, I said, how many people here would like to know what you can do to change your projections, rather than doing money in your projections? And we got thumbs up all around. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, obviously, in 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I'm not going to be able to take you through the techniques, but many of you have got the techniques anyway. What I want to talk about today is how you can apply them. And then if you don't have access to the techniques, how you can go about getting them. That's what today's about. It's probably going to be, well, I say 20 minutes. I always say that, and it never is. And then ample time for Q&A afterwards. So I think we've managed to, I'm just going to look in here. I think we've managed to get everybody into the training. Caroline Sillett there again. I can see more people out there. Hi, Caroline. I can see more people on the screen. We've got Andrew, Phil Atkinson. Yes, I can see you there. Michelle Chapman. Hi, Michelle. Mike Walton. Hi, Mike. Tim Morell. Yeah, great stuff. So let's get started. So the whole thing, I've been getting a lot of feedback, both in the group and by personal message and emails, that even just the thinking about the concept of perceptions projection and how you could change your projections onto a particular person if they weren't what you were wanting, has been enabling people to change their perception, i.e. their reality, very, very, very quickly. In some cases, people said almost instantaneously. So that's brilliant. That's just attention. You know, in Huna, we've got the Kahuna Taneo Sans Kumalai, who said you can have whatever you want in your life, provided you pay. Attention. And to the extent you don't pay attention, you pay with pain. So, you know, just paying attention to perceptions projection and just paying attention to your projections in of itself will change your projections, therefore change your perceptions. But I want to talk about how we can go about changing these on a more fundamental level. So the first thing that we can do is to release. Not happy with that pen. Let's go for a new one. Release, that's better. Negative emotions. And by that, I'm talking about releasing negative emotions from our neurology and from our unconscious mind, which is the projector, if you remember from session 1. Emotions like anger and sadness and fear and hurt and guilt. You know, one of my biggest experiences of this was when I was doing the work with the veterans, and a lot of them got a lot of unresolved anger. So their perception was that the world was filled with people who had an intention of, well, their words, piss them off. And when they released their anger from inside of them, their anger disappeared in their reality outside of them. It's almost like they got their anger sunglasses on. A lot of them got a lot of unresolved fear. And so their perception was that the world was a scary world and it was full of frightening people. When they let the fear go inside of them, those scary people, those frightening people, that frightening world disappeared. How could it do that? Well, it was never there in the first place. So releasing negative emotions from our past changes our projections massively. I can't remember if I mentioned this, but there was one particular program, and we'd released anger and sadness. And sorry, no, we hadn't done that at this point in time. The guy puts his hand up, David, we need to do it now. We need to do it now. We need to do it now. And I'm going, well, I've got a bit more theory to cover yet. No, we need to do it now. We've got to do it now. And I said, well, we're going to do it, but what's going on? And he said, well, my 3-year-old daughter, I think it was, is having temper tantrums. She just throws herself on the floor. She's beating her fists on the floor. She hits me. She hits her mum. And then when she comes out of the tantrum, we say what was going on, and she can't tell us. He said, I've realized I'm projecting my anger onto my daughter. So I want to let it go. And I said, well, we're going to do anger first, so you can do that. He said, do you think the anger tantrums will disappear in my daughter? And I said, well, yeah, if that's what you think is the cause of it, then of course it will do. And we did a 3-month follow-up. And he said that after he'd been on the 3-day program that we did for veterans, and he came home, those anger tantrums disappeared in his 3-year-old daughter, just stopped and never started again. So that's a great example of, one, from what we're talking about, perceptions projection. 2, a great example for those of you who've studied timeline therapy and mental emotional release of imprinting on a very young unconscious mind. So the ways that I would suggest releasing negative emotions from your past would be timeline therapy, would be things like mental emotional release, which I believe is also a circle R. And then also for those of you into more esoteric methods, would be from a Huna perspective, Ku'u, which means to, means to make, Ku'u to release or let go. So Ku'u means to make, let go. So those would be the techniques for removing the negative emotions that you might be projecting out into your world, into your reality, onto people, situations, and circumstances. I know many of you have already been trained in those techniques, so you know how to do them. If you haven't, then we do have a 2-day seminar coming up in a couple of weekends' time called Fix Your Mind, where I will guide you through these processes to change more than just this. We'll touch on this again as we go through, but certainly you'll release all of your anger and your sadness, your fear, and your guilt. Then there is aligning your values. And particularly letting go of values conflicts, which you can again do with timeline therapy, mental emotional release, and Ho'oku'u. Whereas, you know, values are the things that are most important to us. So they do provide us with upfront motivation, after the fact evaluation, but then we also do project our values onto people, situations, and circumstances. And so if a person had a lot of away from values, as in things it was really important for them to avoid, then what they would do from a perceptions projection point of view is they would actually project out into their environment all of the things that it was important for them to avoid, to basically prove to themselves that they were right, that it's important to avoid those things. Again, we can do that by releasing negative emotions, but equally in our Fix Your Mind seminar, I teach you how to elicit your values and also then elicit towards away from conflicts. And then during the weekend, during the 2 days, release those negative, or they're not negative, that's the wrong word, the away from values from their unconscious mind. So it would very much, they would project out onto people in all areas of their life, into situations, circumstances, etc. They would project out what they wanted to move towards rather than what they wanted to move away from. Then limiting beliefs. These things live in our unconscious mind. So limiting beliefs would be that I can't do this. And also, you know, limiting beliefs that I think make the biggest difference to projections are limiting beliefs which are at the identity level. So a limiting belief which started with I am ... Again, personal experiences. May 1993, did my practitioner training. And I wasn't aware of this before I did the training, but suddenly became aware of a major limiting belief of I'm not good enough. So if in your unconscious mind you have a limiting belief of I'm not good enough, you project that out onto every single area of your life. So therefore, my perception is in my life in general, I wasn't good enough. In my relationship, I wasn't good enough. In my family, I wasn't good enough. In my health and fitness, I wasn't good enough. In my education, I wasn't good enough. And because I was projecting that out, my perception was I was always confronted with evidence that that actually was true. But I wasn't consciously aware I was projecting it at that point in time, for the first 30 years of my life, if you like. So I got rid of that May 1993, and that had a fundamental impact on my perceptions of my relationships, my body, my money, my business, my career, education, all of those kind of things. Fundamental difference. But then, I came, when I first learned this stuff 29 years ago, this month, actually, I went on a real steep curve of changing my world, changing what people would say would be my success profile, if you like. But then a number of years afterwards, I became aware again that I wasn't quite achieving my goals. I was doing okay, but I wasn't achieving my biggest goals. And I knew that something wasn't okay, but I had no idea what this was. I.e., it was unconscious. And what we're doing with perception projection is we are making the things that we're not consciously aware of, i.e., what Jung would call our shadow, conscious. Just making it conscious doesn't necessarily change it. But you see, you can't actually, no matter how much training you've had in all this stuff, you can't change something that you're not conscious about. So Tad, my dear friend, Tad, mentor, was in London at the time. And I said to him, I think I need to book a breakthrough session because I know there's something not right. Things aren't working. They're okay, but I've kind of stalled. But I've got no clue what it is. And so I did a breakthrough session with him. And because of what we were doing, because I was training, he was training, we did the first half of the breakthrough session 1 week, and then we couldn't actually do the intervention in the second part of the breakthrough session the second week. And what came up in the first part of that was that I had a limiting belief of I'm wrong, which, I'm going like, where did that come from? That never even entered my consciousness before. It was definitely in the shadow. And then Tad said, well, next week we'll get rid of it. So I was doing a practitioner training that week. So I spent the entire 7 days with being consciously aware of this I'm wrong filter. And, people would come up to me on the practitioner training and said, oh, David, you're really great. And I would go inside, why are they saying that? What do they want? Because it's not true, because I'm wrong. So I realized just how much of my perception was filtered through that projection of I'm wrong. And then when Tad and I finally got back together again 70 days later, I went like, Tad, get this thing out of me. It's driving me crazy. And he did. So that got me sorted out for them. Not that I'm sorted out permanently, but got me sorted out for them. And again, getting rid of limiting beliefs, same interventions, timeline therapy, mental emotional release, or ku'u, and on our Fix Your Mind weekend that we've got coming up in a couple of weekends' time, you will do all of those. So, a weekend, if you can make it, a weekend which will enable you to dramatically change your projections and therefore your perceptions of the world. Then, here's another thing as well. Using the creating a future process, as in properly set goals, then what you do with that is you install into your unconscious mind a new projection as to what you want to create in your perception. So these three things here are removing the projections of things that you don't want. This one, number 4, is how you install projections into your unconscious mind about what you do want or what you do want to create in your perceptions. And again, we do that in the Fix Your Mind weekend that we've got coming up. Now, if you want to get a little bit more esoteric, then a means of changing our projections onto people from Huna is Ho'oponopono. I think I mentioned this a couple of sessions ago, that from a Hawaiian perspective, from a Huna perspective, they had that we carry around inside of us parts of us that represent everybody we've ever met, everybody we've ever known, everybody we've even thought of. And that part of us, which represents that person, is the slide in the projector, which is then projected out into our reality. So Ho'oponopono enables us to change our projections onto individuals, or equally enables us to change our projection onto categories of people. I was just mentioning on a recent training, I had this experience when I first moved to living in Acton in West London. The streets are filled with homeless people sleeping on the streets. And I thought that was wrong. I thought, and I made a judgment about it. And then somebody pulled me up on that judgment. And I decided that I needed to change it. Well, I used Ho'oponopono to change my judgment that it was wrong. And overnight, it seemed there were less homeless people in Acton. But then I can remember I was having a drink at a pub, summer's day, with my then partner. And all I can describe as being a bag lady came up to me. There's ladies or people that walk around with these carrier bags. Normally they're red, white, and blue striped, full of newspapers and all their worldly belongings, and came up to me and asked me for 20p. And I said to her, "Is that what you really want?" And she said, "No, not really." I said, "What would you really want?" She said, "Well, I'd like a cup of tea." And I said, "Well, is that what you really want?" She said, "No, not really." I said, "Well, what do you really want?" And she said, "Well, I'd like a can of Carlsberg Special Brew, which is a particularly strong lager that we have here in the UK, 9%, something like that." I said, "Is that what you really want?" She said, "No, not really." I said, "What would you really want?" She said, "What I really want is 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew." So I said, "Well, how much is 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew?" And she said, "Well, that's £2. So I said, "So what do you really want?" She said, "Well, I guess £2. I got no change, so I gave her £20. And I said, "Go over to the shop over there and get you 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew and bring me the change back." And my then girlfriend partner said to me, are you crazy? That wasn't the actual word she said. There were more words than that. And she said, do you think you're going to get your money back? And I went like, well, yeah, but if I don't really care. Anyway, she came back and she started chatting to me about what had happened to her in her life. And I used my conversational change techniques to reframe the experiences that she'd had in her life. And she wandered off with a big beaming smile on her face. I don't know if that's because her life was different or whether it was just because she was looking forward to 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew. It doesn't really matter. But afterwards, I did think I wouldn't have responded that way to her if I hadn't have done Ho'oponopono with that category of people, of homeless people. It changed my projection on them. It meant that I could accept them for where they are right now. You know, we said about empathy rather than sympathy. I had empathy for her, and I could enable her to change her reality if she wanted to. So that's a great technique. Then number 6, also from Huna, is what is called the Keawe process. Now, with the Keawe process, what the Keawe process enables you to do is it enables you to resolve inside of you any dichotomies that inside of you are in conflict, or inside of you are resisting you or opposing what you do. Everything in the universe is created as a dichotomy. There's a dichotomy of me and you. There's a dichotomy of me and the camera, and the dichotomy of me and the laptop. There's also the dichotomy of me and the rest of the universe, as in the whole universe that's not me. So everything's created a dichotomy. That's beyond question. So therefore, the only question is, do your dichotomies work for you or not? Or are they in conflict? Or are they opposing you? Or are they resisting you? This now is my go-to process when I do breakthrough sessions, rather than visual squash parts integration from NLP, because one is it's faster. The second is that my clients can then use the Keawe process for themselves for the rest of their life without needing me. So that's real, what I would call empowerment. I'm really into empowering my clients. It's not that I don't like them, but if I've done my job well, I don't see them again because they don't need me. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but for those of you trained in NLP, I don't know how you do a visual squash parts integration on yourself. So my go-to is the Keawe process. There is a version of Ho'oponopono on C21 NLP. I don't like it. I recorded it many years ago. So I'm in the process of recording a new version of that. It's also in our Huna intros. And I am in the process of recording the Keawe process. The Keawe process and the Ho'oponopono and O'Ku'u are covered in our Huna Level 1 intensive. We just did one of those a couple of weeks ago. We will be running another one, but I'm looking at working on recording a audio, which will be on c21nlp.com. Then finally, if you really wanted to go for it and learn how to change every single projection for good, though this is not for the faint-hearted, and it's also not for, you've got to be open-minded to do this, is my what I call PEBI. It's Personal Empowerment Breakthrough Intensive. It's 7 days for 7 people. And in that, we basically throw everything at how you go about changing your projections, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, mental emotional release, HUNA, tarot, astrology, numerology, the works, to give you a full-blown system that will enable you to change all of your projections for the rest of your life. It's limited to 7 people because the amount of one-to-one time that people get with me, I can't handle more than 7 people. So it is a very exclusive training. But those are how you can go about changing your projections by yourself, or via a seminar, or via audios, or via trainings. So I've been talking for over half an hour again, as is usual. So I'm going to throw the floor open to Q&A. I'm going to be getting my Q&A on here. Okay, we've already got some coming in. Okay, Nick Barrow, David, how can we find these projections that are unconscious? Yeah, it's a bit of a bind, Nick. Most of the time, I can find them for myself, and then sometimes, particularly if it's a shadow projection, you can't see your own projection. So that's when I went to Tad and did a breakthrough session for him. I think it's an Einstein quote that you'll never solve a problem on the logical level that created it in the first place. And you're always on the logical level you're on. Whereas when you're working with somebody else, they can leap logical levels. The difference would be that in the Personal Empowerment Breakthrough Intensive, I do teach a process which enables you to discover those projections using other people in your life as barometers. So the thing with the Personal Empowerment Breakthrough Intensive and the things I cover in there, it does then enable you to discover the projections that you're not consciously aware of by looking at your perceptions of other people in your life and doing it in a very structured way, which I teach right at the end of the 7 days. And I've had people do those 7 days that have done a lot of stuff with me before, and they said the final day, compared to everything they learned before, took the top of their head off. And it works. So, okay, I don't know who this one's from. Hi, David. Today I came across your original Ho'oponopono CD, which I'll play later. Much better than other products on the market, as in Joe Vitale. Thank you, whoever said that. Have you got a CD, etc., of Huna Keave process? Ho'oponopono helped me get over a very bad business decision, which was bugging the hell out of me. Fantastic. That's great. So there is a Ho'oponopono process on C21 NLP at the moment. I'm going to re-record that because my thinking has changed on that. So I'm going to get that recorded over the next couple of weeks, and that will be on C21 NLP. But really pleased you had such a great result with that. It really does work. I mean, I love the process. Okay, this is Mary. Please clarify. Ho'oponopono, the forgiveness process is for self. Did you say this process changes the other person's projection? Or yes, in your perception, Mary. But then their projections and judgment on you are your projection anyway. So, so the answer to that question would be yes. And since it's all you, then from David Wise question, could you do quantum linguistics as well as stroke instead of K-ARVE? Yes. Yeah, David. Quantum linguistics is something I teach in my master practitioner. It's also on the conversational change program on c21nlp.com, where we can do things like a linguistic process for enabling people to get rid of limiting beliefs, even integrate parts. So, David, when I'm working with a client, I will normally go with quantum linguistics first, because it's the quickest and easiest. And if that works, then great. The thing with quantum linguistics is it's not as precise and targeted and as guaranteed to work as some other processes. And yes, David, technically you could do that. If it didn't work, then you would do, from an NLP point of view, visual squash parts integration. From a HUNA point of view, and what I do now is I do the K-ARVE process. Leon Noam, I assume the 7 days, 7 people is in person. You assume correct. Leor, I'll have to pop back to the UK sometime. Brilliant. And I'm not going to be running the Personal Empowerment Breakthrough Intensive in the UK. It will be somewhere outside of the UK. The reason why that is important is that I like all the people on the program to be staying away from home. You just don't get the same result if people are going home to their regular environment every night. And the only way of me guaranteeing that is if we take everybody away. And we're looking at a number of places at the moment for us to be able to do that as easily as possible and safely as possible, obviously. Renee, I wish I'd met Tad when he was still teaching. Yeah. It was a real honor and a privilege to, for me, to meet Tad, to be trained by Tad, and then also to become his friend and his co-trainer. It really was a really massive and steep learning curve. And I can quite honestly say that I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't have been from what I learned, what I experienced from my relationship with Tad. So yeah, there's another question coming in. I can see. Okay, question from Jeff. Which of these processes can you do on yourself and which are better done with someone else? The thing with all of these things that I've written up is that the reality of it is that you are doing it on yourself anyway. So, if somebody were to do a breakthrough session with me, or if someone were to do Fix Your Mind with me, as an example, where we releasing negative emotions, we're aligning values, limiting beliefs, creating a future, I'm guiding you through the process, teaching you the process, but then afterwards you can use the process on yourself, which is what I would call true empowerment. Yep. The same would be true of Ho'oponopono and the Keawe process. In that, when I work with a client or with a group, I'm taking them through those processes. I am guiding them through the processes, and they are doing the processes on themselves. So once they know the process, they can do it on themselves after that. Then, and this relates to the question that Nick had, the things I teach on the Personal Empowerment Breakthrough Intensive, the difference with that is that you learn how to discover what it is that you need to work on. So with these processes here, well, 1 through 6, you need to be consciously aware of what the problem is so that you can work on it and resolve it and get rid of it. What you learn on Personal Empowerment Breakthrough Intensive is that you learn how to discover what the problem is when you're not consciously aware of it. I think that so 7 is quite a quite a watershed. It's not a training. It's an experience. You learn a lot of stuff, but it's not a training in the regular kind of training idea. Elise, come to the Dominican Republic for Pebi. Okay, well, Elise, that's we'll put that onto the onto our prospective list of places that we're looking at where we can run that later in the year. I do like to run it somewhere which is nice. I think if you're going to spend 7 days working on yourself intensively, then you deserve to do it in a place that's nice. And also the training times for Personal Empowerment Breakthrough Intensive are 1 p.m. till 8 p.m. So, wherever we are, you get the mornings to do whatever it is that you want to do. Heather, no, come to Australia. Okay, so now I need to do the Keawe process between Dominican Republic and Australia to resolve this potential conflict that I have in my external world, which obviously I'm projecting. But I was actually, I was speaking to Annette and Doug about Australia. Only just, I think it was probably yesterday. Actually, seems a long time ago. So much has happened. So now that we're out of lockdown, I'd love to be able to get out and train around the world again, like I used to do. So. What time we got? We got 45 minutes past. So are there any more questions? Oh, appears that there is. And now Renee says, no, come to Cape Town. Oh, no. I've never had so many invites to travel the world. We'll put them all on the possibilities list, and for our research, what we're looking at is where can we find the right venue? Where is it easy for people to fly to? Where is it easy for people to get access to, whether they're vaccinated or not? Where can they safely stay? Where is it a nice place, but also a reasonably priced place? So there's lots of things that go into the combination as far as that's concerned. So any other questions about perceptions projection? Not necessarily about content today, but it might be questions that have come up about perceptions projection as a result of previous sessions. By the way, if you're watching this on the replay and you've got questions, then just put the questions into the group, and I'll get to those as quickly as I can. Nope, it all seems quite quiet. So next week, what are we doing next week? Perceptions projection in the context of money. How is your experience of money your projection? And what can you do about that? That could be your experience of money in general. It could be your experience of money in your business. Could be experience of money in your career. Any of those kind of things. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. And then also, what can we do to shift those? And I learned a number of tricks. And they are tricks, not magic tricks or anything like that, but they are tricks that I learned from my dear friend and mentor, Stuart Wilde, in his book, The Trick to Money is Having Some, which is ways of tricking your unconscious mind into changing your projections onto money. And they really work. So if you want to get some real kind of like tangible, quick fixes to change your projections on money in your life, then join us next week, which of course will be same time, same bat channel, and we'll see you all then. Thank you again so much for joining me. I love it when all of you join me live. Gives me energy to feed off of. Which is great, rather than just speaking to camera and just not seeing anybody there. So I really appreciate you taking the time, shifting your schedules around wherever you are in the world, so you can be here with us live. Give us a thumbs up if that was useful today. Cool. I can see all of you on my laptop screen. So brilliant stuff. Stay safe. Any questions you've got, get in the group, Real World NLP and HUNA community. Put them in there. I'll get to them as quickly as I can. And then we'll see you next week for your projections on money and how to change them.